Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am really looking forward to my conversation today with Nichole Rawson. Nichole and I go way back. We've known each other for quite some time. She's had several amazing careers. We're going to talk about her current business today. And I'll give you a little background. She is a lifelong advocate of education. She is a certified secondary teacher, an author, and the founder of Screen Time Clinic, which is a network of digital wellness experts empowering families to flourish offline and keep kids safe with limited screen time. Her new children's book, Screen Smart Sam, was written to reach families with young children to help prevent problems parents are noticing with behavior and learning challenges as young as 18 months due to media overstimulation. This is a hot topic, so excited to get into it. Welcome to the show today, Nichole.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get to all the hot topics on screen time, I'm sure every parent who's listening to this is just ready to bust out of their seat because there's so much to talk about here. I do want to get to that. But before we get there, let's get your background. Where are you from? Talk a bit about some of your educational choices, and then we'll get into your career path.
Sure. I'm from Mesa, Arizona, but I grew up in both rural Minnesota on a lake and farm, and also in Arizona during the school year because my dad was a pilot for both Northwest and also the military in Arizona. So I had the fortune of kind of being in both worlds. And during the summertime, there was a lot of creativity and from all the boredom, quite frankly. I remember being very annoyed as a child that I was so bored, but we did so many cool things because of that. And then had the more traditional, big school and big opportunities in Arizona as far as activities and extracurricular things. So I think I'm fortunate to have grown up with both experiences, which really sparked my entrepreneurial flair, I would say.
I love that. That's great. Where did you go to college?
I went to the University of New Mexico. I had a volleyball scholarship there and was interested in their engineering program. And I only went 3 years to the university. It wasn't as great of an experience as I thought it was. And I was really eager just to get working and start my life. Looking back, maybe it would have been better to do 5 years and really enjoy college time and not take it so seriously. But I went right into full-time teaching and was the head volleyball coach when I was only 21 years old. And that was really fun and challenging and really helped me grow up quick with lots of responsibilities. So it was an exciting time in my life then.
I bet. That's awesome. And you stayed in education for a while, is that right?
I did. Yeah, I had the fortunate experience of moving everywhere. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I enjoyed moving every year. So
it looks like Boston, Houston.
Yes, exactly.
I know you did a little 8-month stint in Russia.
Yeah, I taught English there also. We lived there for about a year. And it really helped broaden my horizons as far as no school district is perfect, or there's no such thing as the ideal school or parents or children, and just to make the best and really focus on the good part of the education system that we have in the United States is really pretty amazing, even though it could be better, but it's definitely not bad.
Yeah, no, of course. And you taught at the college level for a bit as well.
I did, yes. I think that's where you and I reconnected after a while apart, and that
Yeah.
was really nice teaching at FITM, a Fashion Institute, teaching marketing. That was after I went back to school and did my MBA degree at Rice University, because shortly into my teaching career, 3 or 4, I guess it was 4 years into it, I realized I don't want to be one of those grouchy teachers that feels like they have no options and they're just stuck there forever, counting
Mhm.
down the days until their retirement happens. So for me, continuing education, keeping my options open was really important, even though I loved teaching and I loved the students and coaching. But at some point, I just knew that I would want to do more. And that's kind of led me on my path where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you got into real estate. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But you also had a jewelry company back when I first met you. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, that was my entrepreneurship project with Rice University. I took a lot of courses in entrepreneurship and marketing, and I saw all these home sales companies kind of budding. And I loved the wholesaling aspect of it and boutiques. And it was just when the internet was really getting started. There weren't any social networks yet. It was just, that you could look at someone else's website basically. And it was tough part of my life. I had two little boys, 1 year after the next. And so my superpowers of being a mom and a businesswoman were really wearing thin. And ultimately, I decided that focusing on my kids full time was more important than like growing this business and really spending the right amount of time that I needed to make it profitable. So I set that aside and just had the good fortune of being able to stay home with my children, but also wanting to get back into education, wanting to have my own company again someday, and wanting just to be challenged and in the workforce somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about real estate. I know you built quite a team. You were in real estate for in total about how long?
Over 10 years now. Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
it was pretty interesting because when my children finally went to elementary school, gosh, I think we had moved like 6 or 7 times. And an individual approached me and said, "Gosh, you would be a really good real estate agent." And I said, "Well, I do know a lot about selling and buying homes just from a personal experience. So, yeah, that would be fun. Let's try." And certainly the big appeal was you could sell one house in Southern California and make as much as I did all year teaching.
Totally.
Really unbelievable. So I had my MBA. I knew the systems and processes that really drive successful businesses. And in real estate, I started off with Keller Williams. They have a great training program. They've done lots of research about this, and it gave me a great foundation to really dive into how to build a team and how to scale things. And that was super fun also.
Awesome. I love it. And are you still doing real estate at all? Maybe on the side with your current business, or have you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did just receive my broker's license a couple years ago. I took that extra step because I wanted to do more in the education arena, because ultimately buying and selling homes, as fun and fast paced as it is, um, in California, the buyers and sellers was working with, it wasn't like first time home buyers who were just ecstatic that they got their first home. It was more investors. It was very transactional, fairly high stress, 24/7 that you're on, meeting clients' needs and looking for homes, and a lot more work than the glamorous side of it, and not totally gratifying, quite frankly. So I still do some on the side. I love doing vacation rentals for clients and doing buying and selling just upon referral, but it's not something that I seek out anymore as a primary.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
career. Yeah.
you are the founder now of a new company. Well, not new-ish, I will say. You've been around for a few years here.
Yeah.
How did the concept for Screen Time Clinic come about?
So Screen Time Clinic is kind of a mixture of both real estate and education, because I had this vision, like, wouldn't it be great, instead of every Keller Williams that is on every corner, that you would have a Screen Time Clinic, and it would be a place for parents just to go get advice specifically about screens and receive the help just for that niche part that affects so many areas of our life. Teachers can't teach properly when their kids are so distracted. It causes so much angst within parenting. So this niche business I really knew would take off because it affects so many areas of life. And I wanted it scalable. I didn't want to do it all on my own, because I understand the power of teams and how that benefits business owners. And it just makes way more sense than going at things yourself, and
Yeah.
is way more fun.
Yes, exactly, for sure.
My whole goal in my life, to do something I enjoy.
For sure, for sure. So, just kind of going back to the basics here, I'm going to guess, Nichole, that you probably had experience having two boys with, managing their screen time. Was that part of the impetus for this?
Yes, yes, that was. It was both me. I went back into the classroom and was a middle school coach and did a little bit of teaching a few years ago for San Diego Unified. And when I went back into the classroom, I was just mortified with how much time all the kids were spending on their one-on-one devices that either the school gave them or they were bringing from home. There was really such a lack of connecting with the teachers, focusing on work. We had kids that would come to class and readily admit, oh yeah, I was up till 4 a.m. playing this video game. So I saw it from a teacher perspective, but I also experienced it with my own children, because they were the first generation of children who had access to this technology. And all of us parents, most all of us parents, gave it to them without realizing the risks that came with it. And it's really unfortunate, because these children never had the opportunity to choose for themselves. Do they want to use this? Do they want to not use it? By the time they were in their 12, 13, 14, when young adults start making some decisions, they were already fully ingrained in it. And honestly, most kids that start out early on devices become very dependent. And we also talk about addiction to it, because it's so highly stimulating.
Yeah, let's, how big is the problem? Maybe give us some examples, what you teach, obviously, in your program, and, just like, I know we said in your intro, as early as 18 months old, you've got kids that are throwing fits, and we've all seen that, right? Like the parent trying to take the phone away from like a 2-year-old, and just like all hell breaks loose.
Exactly. And it hasn't been until recently that these anecdotal things that we've been noticing for years now, almost 10 years now that it's been studied, but now parents are really connecting the dots, and they're seeing like, aha, this is the reason why my child is behaving like this. And when they remove the devices for a short time or even a longer time, then they see the improvement that it makes. But then they're also conflicted with pressures of society and pressures of other parents, and maybe even pressures of the school, that school wants to send messages to students via personal devices. So it's a big mess that you can't exactly just say, okay, no screens, this is the way we're doing it, and that's that, because it's a little more complicated unless you live in a very rural area. And even then, I had a client that moved to a rural area hoping to be more screen free. And she said all the farm kids were even more connected on their devices than back in the city where they kind of roamed around free and did a little more on their own.
Oh my gosh. Great. So what advice do you give to parents? What are some of the tips and boundaries? I would imagine a big part of this conversation is about setting standards and boundaries.
It is. We really encourage parents to come on the same page. And this is more than just setting a list of rules for your children. It's about getting really clear as parents what your values are, how you want to set your children up for success. What are those tools and what are the skills they're going to need to turn out to be the successful person that you want them to be? Because online is not the solution for most of the things that parents want their children to be. Occasionally you have gamer parents who then, want their kids to be gamers and in esports. But that's obviously not our target market. And it's not what most parents want for their children. It's kind of like pro sports used to be, where every kid wanted to be a pro athlete and only a small percentage would actually attain that. But at least everybody was doing really healthy things trying to reach that goal. Now, all the kids want to be YouTubers and influencers, and that actually doesn't equate to anything in the future. And it really hurts their social emotional skills, their mental health, and creates an unhealthy dependency on a device that, isn't really supporting them.
Yeah. I know I've read a bit about parents who give their children contracts before they get their first cell phone. I think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, it's like, let's set the parameters, what are the rules? Let's get it in writing. You sign it, I sign it. And it's so funny. My ex gave his son an iPhone, and I think he was about 10. That's the big debate, right? Like, when does the kid get the smartphone? And like you said, pressure from neighbors and friends and, so-and-so down the street, they're 8 and they have a smartphone, right?
Right.
But so I suggested the contract, I got a contract from somewhere and, manipulated it. And he made the fatal mistake of handing his son the cell phone. He said the contract was coming, but he didn't hand him the contract and have him read the contract, one-page contract before handing him the phone. And so he handed him the phone, and literally an hour later, he came in and said, "Okay, here's the contract for the phone." And his son wigged out. Like, you got to do this in the right order of operations.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's the struggle that parents see, that if they don't set things up for success in a mindful way, it's a constant struggle. And there's so many strategies just like that. And, little things like not gifting technology, that children never feel like this is my phone and I own it and it's private to me, because it's such a dangerous tool and gateway to a whole nother universe that parents always think, it's not my kid, not going to happen to my kid. I want to trust them. I want to let them be, make good choices. But this is the internet, and there are very, very bad things on it. It's the culture of disrespect in America that is running rampant. And from predators to just addiction with the design of the programs, it's a real Pandora's box. So now we're actually, the best practice now to circumvent the whole contract part is using distraction-free phones, and even adults are opting to use these to really help them reclaim their mindset and reclaim their time. 2 hours a day less of time on your phone equals 60 full days, or 30 a month of time in a year. So
what is a distraction-free phone, Nichole?
Well, there's a couple that are out now. They were fairly new, and of course, a lot of kids don't like want to be the weird kid with a phone that doesn't have access to like
This is like my dad, my
Snapchat.
70-year-old father's flip phone. He's like, this works just fine. He's like, the battery lasts a week.
Yeah. It used to look like a flip phone, but now they've designed them so they look like smartphones, and they have music on them. You can text, you can call, you can even video call, but there's no apps. And there's different levels of distraction-free phones. So like Pinwheel, you can allow certain apps, maybe Duolingo you want to allow, but it has a parental control side that goes with it. So you can see all the text and you can see all the activity, and you can restrict it as you need to. Or like Gab Wireless, you can't expand upon it. It's just the basics, GPS, you know where your kid is, you can read all their texts. And that's, through high school, parents are opting to keep that phone. And it really gives teenagers an out. It gives them a reason just to blame their parents and say like, yeah, I don't have it. I'm not on Snapchat. I don't have that. My parents don't allow it. And they're honestly very, very happy about it.
Yeah, because there's so much bullying that goes on.
Right.
That could be a 6-hour conversation right there. There's
right.
so much distraction.
And it just allows them to be totally out of it. And it takes the pressure off of them to like, oh, why don't you have a Snapchat account? Why don't you have this? Like, well, it's just like, here, look at my phone.
Yeah,
can't be on it. I'm not into it.
Yes, exactly.
It's a real evolving industry. And what I love about Screen Time Clinic, we built a great network of international coaches, actually, because Canada, Australia, and Europe have been ahead of this more than we've seen in the United States, that they have adult digital wellness coaching and detoxes, and schools don't allow personal phones at school at all, which in America, gosh, that's such a mind warp for parents to think about. And in our own school district here, there was so much pushback saying, oh, it's a draconian measure. Children, that's their personal property. But like parents should not be texting their children during school, and it's the teacher's job to keep them safe. And they shouldn't be allowed. It's a lot of accountability and liability that children are sending all these messages during school time too. And it's open, it's just not the appropriate place. So that's a whole nother conversation also. But there's just so much that we love guiding parents and guiding schools about, and giving accurate information about the risks and different levels that you can safely integrate technology or limit it depending on your family situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does Screen Time Clinic work? So let's just say I'm a parent, I'm here in San Diego, and I'm seeing issues with my 12-year-old being glued to all the devices all the time. How would I go about engaging with your company?
Well, first, the parents book a 20-minute free consult, and we encourage that just to make sure that there aren't any severe underlying issues that need more psychiatric help, because we are educating and guiding and coaching. We're not therapists. We do have some, like one of our coaches, they have extended degrees, but they're not licensed psychologists or therapists. So we'll do an initial consult, and mostly it's just helping empower the parents. And you wouldn't believe it, but even with happily married couples and families, both parents are usually not on the same page about it. And it's usually the moms that see, I don't know if it's mother's tuition or what it is, but they see the correlation. They have to face the problems day in and day out with it. So a lot of it is getting both parents on the same page. Or if they're a single mother like me, for 10 years, I just thought it was futile to even try. Like, why should I make changes in my own home when they're just going to be undone in the other home? And that's not the way that it should be done either. There should be using one of our coaches to have both parents come up with a co-parenting plan specifically around screens is the best, or just to empower one parent to be clear on their goals and do the best they can on their own and set different expectations. Just like when you go to work or you come to school, there's different ways you behave. Doesn't mean one is better than the other, but it's a protective factor to have less time, even if it's only with one parent half the time.
Yeah, I see that so much to your point of, well, mom lets me do it over at her house. And this is, and so that getting on the same page piece, I would imagine that's probably even more important for, separated parents to map out.
Yeah.
And having somebody to guide you through that conversation who understands the problem and can be that objective third party in the
yes it really helps. And it even helps with the kids then when we come in with a new plan and this just isn't like crazy mom or crazy dad handing down new rules and making a handwritten contract that you must do this and must do that. Like, this is real methods from proven sources that really work and that it doesn't take as long as you would think it does for children to reset new habits and to actually enjoy less time online.
Yeah. Do you have any success stories you could share, Nichole, of any families that you or your network have worked with?
Yeah, there's a lot of, and that kind of leads me to, it's not as hard as you would think it is. That when you do decide to take away the screens, and I have some of these success stories on Instagram. They're a little bit hard to find because parents are hesitant to talk about it and hesitant to share the struggles. But no, we do see the taking away the screens really transforms their relationships and the happiness of their children, like the true happiness, not just being happy that they have a phone and they have their games, like being interactively happy with humans and being part of a child again and really having those opportunities. I know I can give you the example also. I use a good one of my own son, who I took screens totally away when he was 14, back when I was starting this research. And he was a big gamer, Minecraft, Roblox. I mean, all those games just, get these kids early. That's the purpose of them. So I took it all away and he was totally bored and upset for only about a week. And then he decided, I'd like to take flying lessons and do like grandpa's always told me to do, go do flying lessons. So I marched him down to our local airfield here in San Diego. And we went and found an instructor who ended up being a very nice older gentleman who's much like a mentor to him as much as a flight instructor. And he spent so much time from age 14, he's now 18, training to fly and doing real things that really sparked his joy, and is a skill that he can really use in life. And I know had I not taken the screens away, that would have never happened, ever.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. Well, parents need support, and it sounds like you and your team are there to help them. What's the best way for folks to find you and reach out, Nichole?
Take a look at our website, screentimeclinic.com. And we also do webinars and seminars at schools also, because it's not always the parents that self-select that they want help. They often hear our seminars and then say, oh, light bulb comes on, like, all right, this is something that I want to improve upon in my life. So there's a lot of different options, and you can see where the different educators are located. I'm in San Diego, and there's a contact button on all of us, and we'd love to get in touch.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for all you do here in San Diego with Hera Hub and all the different locations that you have in your book. I read your book when it was first published. It's a great book.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Nichole.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.